Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeice. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Eli Dyer, a.k.a. Brotha Nature, and Mateusz Wolski, Concertmaster at the Spokane Symphony. And we're excited to have you guys back, or at least, Mateusz, you've come back to talk about the second round of the M Show, which is Music, Mayhem, and Mystery. And what's so interesting about having you guys here to talk about this really is something that the juxtaposition between what most individuals think of when they think of classical music, when they think of the Spokane Symphony or symphony of any kind, you don't necessarily think expert beatboxer and classical violinist. Tell us a little bit about what this show is and why it's different than what folks are used to.
So why don't we play something first?
Well, show us. Let our ears tell us.
That, yeah, we're definitely doing something a little different. Huh? Yeah.
Let's hear it. That's fantastic, you guys. Now tell me how this idea originated, because as we were just discussing, the irony or the juxtaposition between these two styles or mediums of music, how did you come up with the idea?
Well, I'm always with the whole M Show idea. What are the things that typically are looked upon as they don't really quite fit in with the classical music world? What are the things that we are not allowed to do in the big, nice concert hall when we are dressed in the suits or and ties? And
breaking the rules to a certain extent.
Well, in a way, the thing is, I grew up in Poland, which meant that living in the communist regime meant that there were rules, and the only way to survive was to find a way how to you go around the rules. So I guess that kind of set me up for life, for always trying to figure out, okay, is there a way? Well, not with everything, but in terms of musical ideas, it's like, what can we do that is different? Is there any combinations or any new qualities that have not been experimented upon or just thrown together in a way that it works?
And to give the audience something that potentially is unexpected, that they haven't seen before.
Well, absolutely.
And to bring them out to a new venue.
Yeah, explore new avenues, try new things out, literally kind of break the rules in a sense, musically.
And Eli, how did you two come to find or meet each other musically?
There was a mutual friend that just kind of recommended me to them.
I just started. I have this crazy idea of like, what if I take something what we just played? It's one of the hardest violin pieces written by Paganini. It's the Caprice number 24. So we just gave you the kind of the first two variations. There's about 11 variations to the thing, and they progressively get harder. And I was thinking, this would be so cool to try to perform that piece, but which is very virtuosic, but then add another layer of complexity, and get creative with it. So we started jamming, and and I think it's actually coming along really nicely. I mean, when I look at the samples of the stuff that we've been doing, I was like, it's exciting.
I like this.
It's completely exciting.
You're pleased with it thus far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, because it's not. Some people sometimes occasionally try to take a classical music piece, make an arrangement, you know, put like some electric guitars on it or something, you know, and that's been happening. And you know, we do our pop series and stuff, and I've been experimenting with in the M show too with doing some essentially arrangements of the popular songs. But this time I was thinking, you know, there is a tremendous amount of art that goes into do what he does. Same thing with me, but I've never seen people just put together in this combine and I almost wonder why. You know, is it because the cultural, you know, we couldn't be farther apart than you could imagine?
I would say
maybe it's such a culture clash that people just can't handle it if they're fancy going out to a fancy you know, symphony show or something.
Right. I mean, like if you think about the symphony,
mind,
right? I mean, if you think about the symphony, like tell me when you think about the symphony orchestra, what would be like your
Well, you know, we're going to the symphony. We're wearing the women are wearing beautiful gowns, and the men are wearing tuxedos, and everything is very, very nice, and there's cocktails everywhere. And, you know, it's super proper.
And I think you're both touching on the social acceptance of any given genre of music or entertainment, and what is sometimes not the norm. It'll raise an eyebrow, but I think the exciting idea behind the M show, again, music, mayhem, and mystery, is that eyebrow-raising concept of, I wonder what that is. And let's make sure our listeners realize you've already had a successful run at this earlier this fall. It also was at the Cracker Barrel building.
It's Cracker Factory building,
Yep, and it will be again on Thursday, May 24th, and Friday, May 25th this year. Okay. And I love this idea when we talk about all different types of businesses, entertainment, organizations. It's exciting to see when individuals are doing something that's different because they're passionate about it. But there's a fine line, not just doing something different for different sake. That sometimes isn't sincere and doesn't play out the authenticity. But I think what you guys are trying to bring to this show is really to try to bring some sincerity to something you love, which is both music from different angles.
I mean, we're both super passionate about it, but it's just meshing two things, you know, that normally would not happen, just to see if we can what we can come up with, and you know, they both kind of go hand in hand if you really look at them, you know. So it's I don't know, it's a test to see if we can really do it.
Well, no, I mean, what can I say? To me, the M show is also about posing a question: is something possible? You know, I mean, the big part of the show is the challenges that I throw against other musicians. Like, you know, I will have a challenge with our principal oboe player, where we'll go. I'll be in the pool. He's going to be outside playing oboe, and the question is, because I know he can hold a note incredibly long, you know, without breathing. I don't know how he does it, but but he can just. So the question is, can I hold my breath underwater as long as he can play the note, or can he actually hold the note longer? You know, those are like a silly, me being 10-year-old questions that I would ask. It's like,
I think this is almost like Spokane Symphony meets Mythbusters.
Yeah. Oh, you know,
how long can you hold your?
Well,
breath
I mean,
underwater?
but you see, I mean, it's like it's the same thing. It's like, what happens if I take a violin and play a really hard piece and put a beatboxer to that, and we try to do something creative? What's going to happen? And at the beginning of the process, I never know what's going to happen, but by the end, you go through a journey and you learn some stuff, and quite often you find friends, you make new friends, you start to think about the world in many different ways, and in a way it transforms you, and you know, and that's, I think, for me what the art is meant to be, is to find a ways how to transform us and make us better on the other side of the experience. And you know, and the things that we typically do, they've been done in a certain ways, and they follow a certain protocol, and they are not necessarily innovative. You can only explore the shades of gray. For example, when you're a classical musician, I mean, there's millions performances and recordings of the great works that we do, and yes, of course, when we play, we make it unique,
right?
But you know, I can make it unique only this much. With the M show, well, I can call Eli, and it's like, okay, I want to see. I don't think ever anybody did something like this before that I know of.
Well, that's the exciting part. Those lines are blurred. You know, there's no rules in the playbook. You guys can really go for it. and see what sticks, see what works. Are you doing the water?
Well, not live yet.
Okay,
that would require a slightly bigger budget.
I thought,
and me being on the diet.
We have a duck tank.
That's a good idea.
It's gonna be like David Copperfield and MythBusters.
So we're gonna get a few seasons under my belt.
Well, clearly, from the whole idea of the M show is again the creativity for having your normal listeners or normal concert goers coming away with, I didn't realize this could be associated with Spokane Symphony. I didn't realize maybe I could have this much fun with music, with this genre. Talk a little bit about, one of the descriptions is this will be a comical exploration within the confines of classical music and beatboxing. Tell us about the comical piece and how far you're able to take that within the show.
Well,
without giving it away, of course.
Giving it away. So, for example, one of the skits on the show is very timely. You might be aware that Spokane Symphony is actually holding an audition for a position of a new music director.
Right.
Our current music director, a.k.a. is going to conduct half of the next season, and half of the season is going to be conducted by the finalist candidates for the job. So hopefully by the end.
So multiple candidates.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, first the process is very strange. You go through stacks of applications. You look first on the things on the paper. Then if you can get a hold of, they're conducting videos and press releases and everything else. Then you get on the phone, start to talk to people. It's like, hey, how is this guy or how is this gal? Are they easy to work with? And then eventually, based on that, you invite the highest qualified people to actually be in front of the orchestra. Play with the orchestra for about a week. To
a certain extent, my recollection is that's how your process went as well.
That's very, very similar how my process was to apply for the job of a concertmaster and finally get it. So I thought, this process is very formal, it's very serious, and what if we did a kind of a joke on that, and if we could make our conducting auditions in a form of, I don't know, American Idol, or as Jim Swoboda, who is my videographer, says, like, why don't we call it So You Think You Can Conduct?
That's a good name. That's a good name.
Right?
Better trademark that one.
There
That's
you go.
Pretty good.
And the thing is, and then with that, I reached to some of our dear help in the Spokane Symphony office, Alison Heiberger, who's been absolutely wonderful through the whole process. And I asked her, hey, Alison, can we find some interesting people that could be our conducting candidates? Well, before I knew it, a week later, we're filming at Mayor's office. He was
with
one
Mayor
of the
Condon.
Mayor Condon. We handed him baton, and so we have him on tape. He's the audition tape. Sometimes when people cannot make it in person to the real audition, actually we get a tape.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
So, but then we also filmed the segment where we had Tom Sherry, for example, live on the Fox stage with the audience, and we essentially were doing it like you would see it on American Idol, and it was a lot of fun. He was also one of the candidates. We dressed him up in the suit. Pretty good transformation.
Did you have fun?
I'm kind of nice, looking like a penguin.
Did you have fun with the experience?
Oh, totally. It was a blast. It was super funny.
Well, it sounds like you both have continued to really create an artistic relationship that is really taking your music to a different level. Let's take a short little break and come right back and talk about the M show.
Absolutely.
Music, mayhem, and mystery.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Right. Yeah.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
Hi everyone, I'm weather forecaster and assignment anchor at Spokane Talks Online, Colin Pittman, and I am honored to be the host of the new program, Spokane's Youth Spotlight, brought to you by Spokane Talks Online and the Spokesman Review. where we are interviewing and getting to know outstanding youth in our community each month. If you'd like to nominate someone in our community that you think should be recognized, that is doing something great here in the region or has an amazing story, visit SpokaneTalksOnline.com or Spokesman.com and look under Youth Spotlight to nominate. And be sure to tune in each month as we find the best in the Inland Northwest.
Hi, I'm Larry Myers, owner of River Ridge Hardware. Welcome to our garden center here on the corner of Garland and Driscoll. We have fresh plants that come in weekly from all of our local growers. We can make your garden look like our garden. Here at River Ridge, we've been here 30 years. We're your full-service neighborhood hardware store. This is our sprinkler aisle where my knowledgeable staff will help you put together your sprinkler system so it will make your yard lush green for the spring and summer. This is River Ridge Hardware's rental center where we provide a multitude of equipment for rent for the do-it-yourselfer. Next time you're working on your home or yard this spring and summer, stop by, say hi, and we'll help you get the project done.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Brotha Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Brotha Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're in the studio with the stars. Will be the stars of the M Show, Music, Mayhem, and Mystery, coming up on May 24th, May 25th at the Cracker Building. Tell us more about the location. Tell us more about how folks can get tickets, because there are tickets still available.
Right, the tickets are still available, and the Cracker Building is known also as a terrain building.
Yes.
Kind of how this personally made for me kind of my radar was that Symphony did number of collaborations with terrain, and I got to meet some of the very interesting people that operate with that sphere, and it's a very nice, eclectic, and artistic group of people.
It is. It's a great building too.
You know, and the space is exactly what I would envision for the M Show, which is it's not a concert hall. You don't have to wear a tax to go there. You can have your drink with you when you listen to the music or the whole experience. And it's just, I mean, it's a cool hangout.
I would imagine the acoustics within the brick confines of that structure, though, are pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big room where it's going to be happening. So there's going to be some pretty good acoustics, but they also have it all sounded off and blocked off.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a number of people, you can have about 400 people max in that hall. You need to amplify it because it's just not regular shape.
Right.
And also the stuff that we are doing, like, his beatboxing and me playing, in order to match those things and make them actually come to life, you need a little bit of extra sound help.
Well, Mateusz, I want to discuss the one of your passions that I find interesting, which is race cars and racing cars. But not just talk about racing cars in and of itself, but how that relates to the idea of you two joining up and kind of combining these genres of music. So tell us how a long passion of racing cars, both with some interesting vehicles that you've had.
Well, I'm going to take it for a second a little out there. So the car that I currently autocross, which is a form of kind of solo racing when you race against the clock. So there's only one car on the track at a time, and it's usually done at the airport. So when you push the car to the limit, you sometimes spin out. So the way the
not
sport,
necessarily running into something.
The way the sport is set up is that it's affordable and you don't crash your car. You're not going 150 miles an hour at the Spokane Raceway and you have no brakes. That's that's a little bit beyond my my risk level enjoyment. So so some of the things, I also love wrenching on my car. And when you take a journey through a vehicle that somebody else designed, you realize, you start to notice certain things. It's like, why is this so excellent? And one of the things that I noticed when I got a car, that it is built out of aluminum, and the technical term is that it has an aluminum bonded chassis.
Is that basically for weight ratio and speed?
Essentially, typically the cars are built from steel. Then some people started experimenting with aluminum, and then today, all the rage is the carbon fiber. At the time, in that technology, we've had aluminum for a long time that we've been able to refine and put together. The trouble is that when you try to weld the aluminum together, it actually loses strength, and it's very difficult to make essentially welds on aluminum pure enough that there is no structural that there is a structural integrity. So generally, a welded aluminum is considered rather weak. Now then, on top of that, when you put the aluminum and the steel next together, you have something that is called galvanic corrosion. Cannot put those two together unless you do some very fancy stuff. So I believe it was actually Lotus engineered that somebody just said, why don't we just glue those things together? And my car is like, if you go underneath and you start to look, it has like a red looking bubble gum. It's kind of like very thick to touch. It's almost like tar. And the whole car essentially is held together by a bubble gum.
Sponsored by Hubba Bubba.
Yeah, there you go. And to me, it was absolutely mind-boggling because it's in a way somebody just comes up with it's like, why don't we just glue it? And it works. And and the thing is that a lot of racing technology use that. There's still very high performance car that use exactly that technology, which is fairly young.
Yeah, I wonder if the Formula One.
Yeah, well, today everybody moved to carbon fiber, but that is
so expensive.
That is very expensive. But in a way, what I'm trying to do, when I was like, we have a violin.
How do I put these together?
I have a beatboxer. Those things seemingly should never ever exist in the same universes. It's like this is without being offensive, but this is really like a white man music. And what he does is it has roots going back thousands of years, and there's
very urban,
Oh, right. Exactly. So those things, they lived for a very long time in two distinct universes that very very rarely intersect. And I was thinking, how fun would it be to smash those two together? What kind of bubble gum do I need to use
to make it work?
To make it work. And the thing is, and this is where the M show comes. The M show is the whole idea that this is a glue that allows me to throw things that normally maybe there has never been a technology or an idea that it's allowed. And it allows me to bring people together under this one concept of, let's do something crazy, let's create some mayhem and some mystery and have some fun, and and judging by the amount of already a community involvement and people that are actually willing to be crazy enough to join me in this adventure. I think it's and the fact that it's nobody else does it.
Right.
To me, I'm feeling pretty good about that.
I think that's what can be exciting. That can be exciting about Spokane. You have your elements of Spokane or any city, USA, that probably doesn't want to go out there on the fringe and see or do something new. But on the other hand, I think Spokane really does, as you mentioned earlier, have some eclectic contingencies to it that are willing to come out and see something like this. And as you indicated, bring these two concepts
There's quite a bit of people that I've spoken to about this that are just kind of flabbergasted at what it is, and they want to come see it because it's something that's never been done. You know what I mean? Spokane, there's a lot of places that are really really resistant to change. I think that what Spokane is doing right now, physically and all throughout the communities and everything, is changing right now, and people are noticing that and seeing what can really happen, and so it's kind of opening people's minds a lot more on a daily basis over here to see different things.
Well, and on that point, Eli, you are local to Spokane. Did you go to high school here as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can look back and see the changes that have occurred in Spokane.
I can look back and see a lot of closed-mindedness, and now here we are, fast forward, and I see a lot of people bringing new things into stuff that's never been done, or you know what I mean? It's bringing that open-mindedness back.
Well, and I bring that up to comment. I too am from Spokane, and it's exciting to be able to look back over the last 20, 25 years and see where Spokane has come, whether it be on the music, cultural, even the sporting scene, in all the different areas of Spokane. I really think there's been a positive push, but it's the buy-in from the individuals you're talking about, Mateusz, which you're seeing from the first M show, that people are willing to come out and say, I want to support something different. I want to.
Well, you see, I think what I think is very special about Spokane is that in some ways, we're physically quite isolated. I mean, it takes quite a while to get out of town.
Right.
If you want to go, and we're sort of bigger. On the other hand, we're not so small that we're just a small town. It's actually, there's a lot of things that grow over time. And I think that that combination of just the right size. I meet people left and right that say, I actually moved to Spokane because it feels just the right size. It's not too big, it's not too small. There's plenty of interesting things, but they're not overwhelming. Occasionally there is traffic, but nothing by comparison to something like Seattle, or New York. So in a way, I also think that this creates an environment where, how should I say it? One of the things that really did strike me, being member of the symphony, I have a privilege to quite often interact with the very successful people that are on the board or come to our performances. They quite often retire, but they've had a really excellent career where they, managed to become very wealthy. And you meet them, and you would never guess that they are like that, because in Spokane, people are just generally not very showy. I mean, how many Lamborghinis can you count on I think I know one. It's like people are generally much lower key. But what that creates is that there's no artificial barriers to feel kind of intimidated to saying, hey, can we do something together?
Right.
Or I feel completely comfortable calling Eli and hey, let's do something fun. We're completely different from different worlds, but why don't we just try it? If I was in New York, it might have been different.
Right. No, I agree with you.
I mean,
it's a less intimidating.
Well, yeah, it's it's because you have already built in sort of in the big cities the very strong divisions that are hard to overcome. Here, I don't find that if they are there, they're very much hidden under the surface. So it's much easier to just jump over.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier to manifest connectivity in this town. If you have an idea, you can go straight down to City Hall and pitch it to them. You know what I mean?
And I feel like exponentially, we're getting more and more of an opportunity to do that. And individuals like you that are willing to push the envelope and do something different, it's working. Yeah. Would you guys do me a favor and play what you played before, so that we're not giving too much away? But as we roll out here, there are tickets still available.
Yes, if you guys go to SpokaneSymphony.com, you can find them right there. Or
is it .com or .org?
.org, SpokaneSymphony.org.
You can check out, but nonetheless. SpokaneSymphony.org, there are tickets available. May 24th, May 25th.
Yeah, and it's an hour show in the evening.
An hour show.
It's 1 hour.
So
it's
perfectly.
It's kind of like the format is a little bit of like stand-up comedy, or like if you were on the set of SNL.
Perfect.
That is kind of the atmosphere that I'm going for, which means.
Well, you accomplished it the first time.
Yeah.
I think you're going to accomplish the second time. Let's play as we roll out.
All right. This is Paganini's 24th Caprice?
Caprice, yeah. Caprice, okay. There we go.
Cool, yeah.
That's a wrap. Yes. Good work, you guys. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Pleasure to meet you, by the way.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, guys.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, And hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day. The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys